Join us on this week's Pembroke Dock Towncast, where we'll have an update on last week's show, where we discussed the police station relocation. We'll have all your local information and events, a couple of updates on some new businesses, and all the local sports updates. Let's get on with the show.
Get strong.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Pembroke Dock Towncast with me, Lee G. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for your response to last week's show. Kind words, lots of positivity, lots of encouragement. So I want to thank you for all of those. Still just me. I'll cover all of that bit later, but if you do want to get involved in the show, I really want this to be a community thing, not just me sitting there blabbing on for 40 minutes. I mean, 40 minutes last week felt like 3 hours. It really did. So, yeah, if you do want to get involved, it is a lot more fun when there's two of us to have a chat with. So, with that being said, I'll crack on with information and updates from this week. Again, thank you to Pembroke Dock Town Council. There's nothing of note to point out this week. No road closures or anything like that. If I've missed anything, then please do get in touch. That would be great, and we can share that with everyone. In terms of events, there's loads of stuff coming around about the May, and I can find loads of stuff on people's businesses' Facebook pages, but it tends to be come and eat here. So if there's an event going on, again, tag us in the post or whatever, or just let us know. You can send it in to us at ilovetowncast@gmail.com. When I said that last week, it sounded a little bit like Towncasts with an S, but it's not. It's Towncast. ilovetowncast@gmail.com. So, yeah, please do send us in any events that you want us to talk about on that. So, yeah, the bit that I do want to talk about around events this week is opening of two new businesses in St. Govans. Now, St. Govans Centre's been around, I think, the 80s, I think it was. It used to be a massive car park. It used to be a huge scrubland. I wouldn't say it's a car park. It was a place where people in town used to park their cars. It was horrible, it was. And then when they built St. Govans on it, it was really, really good for like 5-6 years, and then it kind of started getting a little bit ropey. But now, the last few years, you have to say, there's a lot of local businesses going in there that really deserve, a look. So the two that are opening up this week or have opened this week, first one is Stormborn Games, which is a cafe. So I haven't been in St. Govans since they've opened, but it's on my list of things to do over Easter. So if anybody has been in, or if you're the guys that run Stormborn, then by all means give us a shout. Let's get you on, because I'd love to come in and have a coffee. And if you've got a game called Abalone, it's a Russian game. It's a marbles game where you play on hexagon. It's an absolutely fantastic game. If that game is in there, I suggest you play it. It's the best game on the planet. So, but if guys, if you want to get in touch, then please do get in touch. And if anybody's been in there and wants to tell us what it's like, then again, get in touch. Now, there's loads of these cafes popping up, and they're great because you go in, you'll have a cafe, a cup of coffee, maybe a sandwich, and you'll go in with a mate, or sometimes you go in on your own, and sometimes those are the best ones. And you'll meet somebody else in there who's in there on their own having a coffee, and you just play a game of drafts, game of chess, and it just becomes a friendship over a game. And the more you do it, the more the bigger your network becomes, and it becomes a regular thing. So it's a fantastic place to go. All of these are. I know I've been in three or four of these places around Pembrokeshire, um, but it's a really really cool place to go. And by the sounds of it, these guys really know what they're doing. So well worth a visit over Easter. Take the kids up over Easter. It will occupy a good hour and a half of your Easter holidays. I guarantee that. And you get to have a coffee while you're doing it. Fantastic. Love that. So the second business to open in St. Gothans this week is a company called Fable Twist, who on the appearance from their Facebook page looks like a wool shop, a wool and a knitting and all the fabric kind of things. So there's been a couple of those that have come and gone and come and gone in and around Pembroke and Pembroke Dock. There used to be one in Queen Street, if I remember correctly. There was one in Main Street in Pembroke Dock, in Pembroke. So yeah, it's and I speak from experience on this, where my wife will go through periods of I want to knit, and I don't know why, and I don't know what sets it off, but she'll just go right and knit. At the minute, we're in a pottery phase, where so I made the mistake of getting clay for Valentine's, so and that's kicked off a pottery phase. So I think we'll come out of the pottery phase at some point, and then we'll go back into let's knit and create stuff. But knitting is it's an we think it's an old person thing. It's really not. Lots of young people really enjoy knitting. It's great for your mental health because you have to focus on something very, very specific, and the rest of the world disappears. It just goes away for a couple of minutes, and I love the fact that it can do that. It's something that we don't realize and don't rate. But if yeah, again, I'll try and pop in and say hello to whoever's running it. Looks like a great shop. Looks like you've done a lot of work there, guys. So it looks fantastic. Don't be worried if you haven't knitted before, because it's actually really, really easy to take up. My nan showed me how to knit when I was about 7. Um, and then every now and again, when my wife was knitting, I'll kind of have a set of needles and I'll make a scarf. I'll be honest, that's as much as I can do. I can probably knit a teddy bear scarf, but it does become strangely addictive on that. So good luck to both of those. And if anybody else has got any business updates that they want to share with us over the coming week, whether you've got special promotions, whether you've got a special event going on over Easter, if you're opening up, anything like that, then do please let us know, because we are here to support local business. So, with that said, on local business, hopefully, fingers crossed, we've already got someone interested in sponsoring us in the future. Um, and it'll be someone that you all know and you all respect. So, fingers crossed, we can have that ready for next week, maybe the week after. But this is the whole point of Towncast, is to connect local people with local businesses. That is what we do. So if you are thinking about, do I go and where do I spend my money? Then local businesses is the way forward. Trust me on that one. Okay. So last week we covered the police station. So this is our chatty bit. This is the chatty bit in the middle. Last week we covered the police station. And big response on Facebook. So thank you for everybody that contributed. 2 or 3 people emailed as well, and sent messages through Facebook to fill in some of the information. And I love this bit. So let me start taking this a step back. Okay, part of the problem with social media, okay, and one of the things you'll work out as we go forward with this is that I have a problem with social media. Part of the problem with social media is it doesn't show you all the information that you want. And we become very entrenched, and I say we as in people, and this is all people, whichever way around we go. We become very entrenched in one way of thinking, and because social media will tell us and support us. So if you click on a couple of articles that all have a similar theme, then it will keep telling you that, and it'll keep reinforcing that message. You don't necessarily get the whole picture. And what I'm going to say now is, a couple of other people have messaged me this week and filled in a load of the gaps that were there from last week. And personally, I think that's a great thing. The fact that and nobody sent in. There was one person that commented with something which was completely bizarre and completely weird. So ignore idiots like that. I mean, it's particularly anyone that doesn't like Wales and Welsh people. Anyone that wants a comment like that can do one. I don't care. They're gone. They won't be on the page. So yeah. So the point of what we do now is we go, okay, here was the information we had last week, and based on that information, this is my thought. Some more information comes to light, and now I'm sitting there going like, well, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong last week. And I think more of us probably need to be able to do this. And we would go, actually, the information that I've got now maybe doesn't sit where I was last week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the information that's been sent in this week, and I'll give you where I stand on it now. And that's as much as I can do, is give you where I stand on it. So that viewpoint is out there for you to agree with or disagree with. Whichever way you do it, all I ask is that you do it respectfully. It's a viewpoint. I have my viewpoint. You may have a different viewpoint, but this is the viewpoint. And the whole point is that we exchange information between us, and we can refine our point of view and go, okay, maybe I've changed my mind. It's perfectly acceptable nowadays to change your mind. I think now more than ever, we should be able to sit there and go, do you know what? I thought a certain way, it hasn't worked out. I think differently now. And I think more of that needs to happen. So, what information have I been given since last week? So, the information I had last week was it was more of a community hub station. That for me, that's the bit that's wrong. That I had wrong last week. So, for me now, I would, when you talk to the police, and the police won't talk to us, by the way, first, we will send another request in this week. But yeah, police aren't overly keen on discussing anything because it's all proposals and blah 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 blah. Part of that is they're also not overly keen on talking to residents, but I'll come to that in a minute. Okay, so there's a void of information out there. So from what we could work out before, it was going to be more of a community hub. That bit is the bit that's wrong. It is more of what I would class as an emergency response area. So the relocation of sites in Pembrokeshire now means that the Pembroke Dock station that was once massively underused is now basically the South Pembrokeshire Rapid Response Hub. If you, that's not what they'll call it. That's not its official name. So don't go saying, oh, actually, it's called this, that, and the other. That's what it is. It's the Rapid Response Centre for as far away as now. So Narberth Police Station is about to be closed and sold off at some point in the next 12 months. And that, Pembroke Dock covers all of those areas. I think there is still a site in Tenby, which is kind of manned through summer. But basically, Pembroke Dock is the hub for South Pembrokeshire. I think there's a mid Pembrokeshire or central Pembrokeshire one in Haverfordwest. And I think there's another one in Fishguard I saw this week. Again, the Fishguard one is interesting because that is located on an out-of-town industrial park, for want of a better word. Yeah, and that covers a wider area as well. You've then got areas like Neyland, Milford, which kind of in between Haverfordwest and Pembroke Dock. So as well as covering Tenby, Narberth, Saundersfoot, the Pembroke Dock station may also attend Haverfordwest, Milford, Nayland, that kind of. So there's kind of like a mishmash area where everyone kind of works together, and I think that's the key bit. Is it's the emergency response. So that's probably where I changed my mind. We go, okay, and you're going to look at this from 2 points of view. There's the residents' point of view, and then there's the policing's point of view. Okay, so like I said, police not overly keen on talking to anyone about this until there's a firm proposal. The proposal at the minute is on hold through planning. This is quite common. People will put in, before they make a purchase for a building, they will put in a planning application for it. So there'll be an agreement to purchase. So you kind of put the sale on hold until planning is agreed. So I'd like to buy that building, but I want to use that building for something different. I need to get planning. So when I've got planning, I'll complete the sale of the building. That's how we look at it. Okay. So when you look at this from a policing point of view, okay, and this is again just me, common sense, not a police point of view. Yeah. So as a rapid response, you need to be able to get to the main areas as quickly as possible. That is kind of where Water Street does work. You know, you're on the roundabout, London Road, and then you're on the A477. Okay. Apart from ferry traffic time, where you could be sat there for Christ knows how long. Okay. So that kind of bit, you look at Argyle Street and you go, does that work from an emergency response kind of viewpoint? You go, actually, no. For me, it doesn't. There's too much distance in between Argyle Street and let's get going and put the foot down sort of a thing. So your Bush Street, just round the corner from Argyle Street, along Bush Street, you've got a school, you've got speed bumps, you've got traffic speed control. So what you don't want is a police car coming through there on blues and woos at 3 o'clock with kids coming out of school going, "Oh look, yeah, let's go and wave to the police car," which is what kids do. You want kids to not be afraid of a policeman. So there's that element that doesn't kind of fit. Um, if 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 it was a community hub, so not a rapid response, so as in a place where people could go and talk to the police and police could hold events for public and all that kind of malarkey. Yes, great, but it's not. Um, so from a common sense point of view, looking at that, it doesn't work for me on that. You've then got the second part of it, which is where the the rapid response bit and the residence bit kind of cross over, which is getting out to that site. So I've seen a couple of people put comments about, you won't be able to park in the surgery. That is not. I don't think that's an argument. That's not an argument that's going to hold any sway, because you can look in that car park pretty much 90% of the time. There's spaces. Okay, so that's not an argument for me. What is an argument is getting in and out of that site, because there isn't enough residence parking. Now, this kind of merges onto something that we'll cover in future, okay? And that's modern day demands and when the town was built. And this applies for a lot of towns and whatever. Yeah. Our town, our Pembroke Dock, was built in the 1800s, yeah, where cars were not a thing. So the streets were not built for cars. We've then overlaid the streets that were there with, you know, stuff that's suitable for cars. But the structure of that street, the size of that street, the shape of the layout, as good as the layout in Pembroke Dock is, with the crisscross set out and what have you, it's still not set for modern day, two-car families, nowhere to park around the back. So every house has got two cars with enough room to park one. So when you look at the Argyle Street entrance, and that's the same entrance we used when we went to school there. And it was when that was a school entrance, you used to walk in through there, and then there would be teachers parking. You'd walk through the teachers' car park, teachers' cars would be there, and it wasn't an issue. Teachers would all arrive at a certain time in the morning, they would all leave after all the kids had left. That's just the way it went. That entrance now is just wide enough for two cars to come out of there. And if cars have parked a little bit too close to that entrance on the main road, then you struggle. So you've got 2 points to this. You've got, well, okay, well, residents shouldn't be parking their cars there. Okay, fine, fair enough. Where are they going to park? You're going to build them a garage in their garden. You're going to compensate for the loss of garden just so they can park around the back. And I know what those lanes are like around the back of those streets. Again, they're not easy to reverse a car in and out of. They're a little bit of a nightmare, especially if you've got a van or anything like that, anything other than a standard car, you know, building a garage and reversing into that garage, or driving in and reversing out of that garage, is quite difficult because the lanes are quite narrow. So if you're not going to park, if you're not going to allow residents to park there so that police cars can get in and out rapidly, where do the residents park their car? Bush Street? Do they park them on Bush Street? Your residents on Bush Street have already exceeded where there, so that's not safe across Bush Street at the minute, where there's a little crossing island and cars are parking right up to the crossing island, so you can't go through the crossing island most of the time. Where do people park a car if they live in Argyle Street? And that isn't an easy answer. So from the police point of view, it really doesn't take much. If you're trying to get out there and you're trying to get out there quick, if you come out there and you turn left, that road is pretty much down to one car width until you get to the junction. And so if somebody's turning in, you're a little bit stuffed, and you've got to do this 5-mile-an-hour crawl up to the junction and then hope that somebody lets you up. So you put all of that in, and then it's like, okay, that's where your pendulum is swinging, so to speak. You then go and say, right, okay, what do the residents think? Now, I've had a couple of emails, more than one email, from residents in the street who pretty much unanimously are against it. Not entirely unanimously, but pretty much unanimously are against it, mainly because of the traffic that in and out. They don't want to be the ones that are stopping the police from getting to an emergency. Yeah, we've all been there where, with if you dial 999, you want the police or ambulance or fire brigade to respond swiftly. You want them there. Nothing should get in the way of them getting to you as quickly as is humanly possible. The residents in Argyle Street do not want to be the ones that are preventing that. Yeah, they don't want to be the ones. Well, they got to have an alarm, and every time the police want to get out, they've got to move their car. It doesn't work. And the bit with this that I don't think is helping is, as I said earlier, that the police are not And understandably, I totally understand why, but the police are not engaging with residents. Um, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of you're dealing with 50, 60 people to try and get 50, 60 people together at one point and have the same conversation with everybody is quite difficult, even with Zoom and what have you. Now that it is still a task to do that. So and the police haven't actually bought the building yet. They want to, but they haven't. So it would be almost like having a consultation about something that may or may not happen. And, you know, best will in the world, the police can't tell us everything about what they do. Some of what they do needs to be confidential for themselves. So I get that side of it, but there comes a point where you need to engage with, and if that was anybody else going in there, they would have to engage with residents and go, okay, this is what it's going to be like, because the last thing you would want to do is relocate to that site and then have grumpy neighbours. That's just where it is. So the police could do themselves a massive favour here by engaging with residents. I think so, and maybe councillors as well. I think some of the councillors' comments that are coming out are maybe not helpful, and maybe one vision, you know, um, and maybe that's the bit that needs to change. Where the feeling I got from residents this week is that they're not being listened to. I did invite residents on here, um, uh, and they didn't want to come on, and I totally get that. I hope that at some point in the future they will want to come on and have a conversation and put their point of view across, because people aren't listening to them. People just aren't listening, and when you get into that stage, you do become um a little bit suspicious of somebody coming on and going, okay, come and talk, come and here's a mouthpiece for you to come and have a conversation. And to go from nobody's listening to, okay, somebody wants to put our point of view out, is a bit of a change. So I totally get why they didn't want to come on, but I hope that in future they will. But if the police and the town councillors have got um, any common sense or any sense of art, then those are the people that they would be having a conversation with. Use the building, have a residents meeting in the building, and yes, not everybody will be able to go. And it may be that you've got you might have to do a drop-in day, so a couple of meetings through the day so different people can come. But that's what needs to happen. And residents need to be heard. Residents need to be listened to. And I would say the same for the police. We do need to listen to the police and what they say. But from a common sense point of view, from the information that's out there at the minute, it doesn't seem like a good fit. Despite what the police statement says, it would be a like for like swap. I think what we all kind of accept now is that Water Street is, in order to upgrade Water Street to where it needs to be, would be financially not suitable. And again, this is maybe the thing that kind of is in there, that and it is a difficult thing to think. So it costs money, whatever they do, gonna cost money. Building a new purpose-built police station gonna cost money. Okay. And we know that there's not that much money there to do that. So cost cutting, modernizing the police, yes, absolutely on board with that. Not a problem at all. However, the example that we have from other places is that new police stations have been built. You know, new places have been acquired or built or and they're not an Argyle Street situation. Okay. And I think that's the bit that also it seems very focused on we're moving from there to there, and this is what we're going to do. And the question that I threw back to a couple of the residents this week was, okay, if not there, where do they go from there? And when you go back to the start of the conversation, you go, okay, it's a rapid response place rather than a community hub. Yeah, an out of town site doesn't seem that bad, you know. The and people think, okay, yeah, up by the bridge where HMRC. So you've got Insight HMRC. I don't know how much of that building HMRC are using at the minute. So that's a potential site. If HMRC are not using massive amounts of that building, there's a huge car park there. It is there are a lot of people that work at HMRC, but the potential is there. There is potential for that being a thing. There are sites, down closer to the bottom of the hill on East Lanyon. There are a load of sites which are greenfield sites in the East Lanyon area that could be used. I think Ascona are going to take one of them. That's been on the cards for a while to build their head office there. And on that one, the bigger the dragon, the better. Just on aside on that. So there are sites there, but then there are sites outside of town, out in Kingswood, the industrial estate by Kingswood as well. But then you think, okay, if this is going to cover all of, all of the area, let's look at Carew Aerodrome. Let's look at that site. Okay, that would be a building you would need to construct on that. Sunday mornings, yeah, would be an issue. But there are 2 or 3 entrances to there, and I'm pretty sure that could be used. It may be that one of those entrances becomes a dedicated police entrance. That the entrance around the back could become a dedicated police entrance if the building was there. It just seems much more central to all areas, than town centre of Pembroke Dock. So those are just throwing some ideas out there, guys. By all means, comment on the video on YouTube, comment on the video on Facebook. Let's get your ideas there. And hopefully, as I'm gonna send another email to police press office this week and just see if we can get somebody on. Let's have an alternative point of view. Let's see how that is fitting. And yeah, let's keep the conversation going, because I think the more we keep the conversation going, the more in favour that will be for the residents. And this is something that we will cover on another episode. Is community action is going to become more important, and 2, takes a lot of effort. But 3, if you don't do it, then don't be surprised if something happens and you're not happy with it. You have to make your voice heard, and that's every single resident in every single part of the town. You have to make your voice heard. Don't get me wrong, some of those voices stupid. Some of them say stuff which is just plain ridiculous. But for 99% of us, there is a conversation to be had around how this affects people in the area. So this is the one we're talking about at the minute is the police station, but there are loads of other things that are happening that we should be having a conversation about. So yeah, that's where we're gonna leave the police station conversation there for now. Where for me, there needs to be far more engagement with the residents, and given the information that we've got now, not convinced that that is the right site for the police station. I know that Water Street isn't the right site either, without significant investment. So you either invest in Water Street and upgrade Water Street, or you find an alternative site, and that will require upgrading as well. But here's the point. Okay, the point is that as a police service, you need to be doing that. The residents in Pembroke Dock and in South Pembrokeshire, we do a Towncast of Pembroke Dock, we do a Towncast Pembroke. I want to do a Towncast for every town in Pembrokeshire, every town in Wales, every town in the UK. That's where we want to go with Towncast. Okay, we want the residents to have a voice. We want the residents of these towns to be involved in these decisions, because for too long we haven't been consulted. We've been told that this is happening and end of, and we've almost been removed from the conversation. So we keep the conversation going, and by all means use our Facebook page, but be respectful. And I have no doubt that we will review this at some point in the future. On that, okay. So my invitation is open to residents and members of the police service that want to come on and have that conversation. So just drop us a line, ilovetowncast@gmail.com, and let's get that going. Okay. So gonna park that there. Probably the wrong terminology on that one. But we're gonna leave that one there for this week. I say no doubt we will return to that in future. So it's just me, guys. I would love to have a few of you on board having a conversation with me and backing up for him. Okay. If you want to be a part of this, then please get involved. Message me, drop me a line on Facebook, drop me a line on email. If you see me shopping at Tesco's on a Saturday morning, then by all means say hello. And if you want to come on, then yeah, let me know. Because this is for the community, and yeah, it's the more of us that are involved, the more viewpoints we get, the more information we get, the easier it is on that. Okay, so please do get involved. Similarly, on our YouTube channel, please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you'll get notification when we publish. You can switch that off, but what it means for us, okay, and I'm going to be absolutely bang honest with you on this, all right? So the way YouTube advertising works is we don't get a penny until we reach 1,000 subscribers, okay? So once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we can start running adverts, and those adverts get a tiny, tiny little fraction, but it all adds up, and it means that the small costs that we have got get taken care of. You say we have got a sponsor potentially to come on board, and that will help massively with the cost that we have. But it's just one of those things that we need to get to 1,000 subscribers before we can do anything. So if you can do that, that would really help us. And if you can tell your friends about us, so much the better on that. Okay, let's do the sports report. Let's do the update on that. Okay, so again, I know I've only got rugby and football scores here. Cricket season starts next week, week after next. Sorry. If sports is your thing and you just want to come on and do this bit, cracking, come on and do it, because it makes a massive difference. Okay. I know I've only got rugby and football scores to go through today. If you want to talk about the netball club, bowls, tennis, table tennis, badminton, climbing, Ironman, whatever it is, let us know. If you've got a sports report, send it in. Let's get it out there. Okay. So no rugby for the Quins yesterday. Next game is next Saturday, that's the 19th, at home against Narberth Athletic. Now, a win against Athletic would put the Quins up to 6th. They're in 7th at the minute, so they could go up to 6th. But Narberth Athletic are second in the table. Pembroke are in 3rd. Pembroke are not going to catch them. St David's could overtake Pembroke in 3rd. So it's looking like a not a not important game, but it's not as important as it could have been earlier in the season on that. So that's the last game of the season. It's at home. Now, the one thing I know about Quinn's games that are at home and last game of the season is the party after will be quite something. So if you are, next Saturday is Judgment Day as well. I'll be up in Cardiff for Judgment Day. But if you are going down to the Quins next Saturday, traditionally it always used to be fancy dress. I remember going in Hawaiian dress, with the coconuts and the skirt and all of that kind of stuff. I remember doing one game after. Normally, after a game, you used to have shirt and tie and all of this kind of stuff. And we decided last game of the season was going to be Hawaiian Hawaiian skirts and coconuts. So if you're going, have a chat with the boys. Is it going to be fancy dress? Stay for the party after, because last game of the season at home is always a belting one. So yeah, enjoy that, guys. And next season, no doubt somebody will let me know when pre-season training starts, and we can get going again for a better season next year. Okay, let's have a look at football. So, again, nearing the end of the season, fixtures are a little bit wishy-washy. They're just popping up here, there, and everywhere. So this week, Carew beat the Robins 5-1 midweek. Fixtures coming up. The Robins have got Kilgetty on Wednesday night. 3rd place in that table is very much up for grabs. Could be one of a few on that. So it's end of the season in Division 1. There's all to play for in that one. Okay, Division 2, I've got nothing of interest in that one. Division 3, we've got pretty much season finished for the Borough. They're going to end in 4th-ish, probably going to be 4th. So yeah, we'll see what comes next season for the Borough on that one. Division 4, fair bit of action in Division 4. So Penna Robins seconds beat St Ishmael's Reserves 3-1 midweek. And then games this week, we've got on Tuesday night, we got the Borough Reserves off to Johnston Reserves, and we've got Penna Robins seconds hosting the Newport Tigers, both on Tuesday. And there's a fair bit of football left to play in Division 4. So that one is all up in the air. That one's got a lot of stuff left to resolve on there. Okay. And I think that's it in terms of football for Dock and surrounding areas on that. Okay. So yeah, loads of stuff still up in the air on that. So that brings us to the end of week 2 of Towncast. So for those of you that also watch Pembroke, you'll know I do Swan Watch on Pembroke, where that's just a weekly update on the swans on the mill pond, and I'm very much looking for something similar to do in the dock as well. I just don't know what it is. Yeah, something that we can follow, something that's important to people, something that we can, just update people on through the week. So I haven't walked the foreshore around the dock for a while, I'll be honest with you. So maybe there's something going on there. But if there's something that you want to get involved with, something that you think, oh, do you know what, this would be a good story, then by all means get involved and let's have the conversation. So that is it, guys and girls. We are done for this week on week 2 of Pembroke Dock Towncast. Loads of work to come, loads of stuff to be done in the future. One last go. If you want to join us, come and join us. Drop me a line. It would be great to have other people here. And in the meantime, have a great week. I shall see you next week. All the best.
Be strong.